Speed Chess Challenge. Tonight's quarter-final is between Grandmaster John Speelman, playing white, and International Master Matthew Sadler with the black pieces. John, you had white. Would you like to kick off with the commentary?
Yes, I played one d2 to d4.
Yeah, and I played d5.
And I developed my knight.
I played this move, which is designed to keep a bit of flexibility in the black position.
I now decided to play a Catalan opening with g3. I mean, obviously the more normal move is c4. I know I do g3.
Why is it called the Catalan, John?
Oh, probably because of ETA, I should think.
I thought it was because there was a tournament in Barcelona in 1929 where the opening was introduced.
Oh, you're probably correct about this, but I was more into the opening theory than the etymology in this case.
Right. And Matthew, what did you do now?
I went bishop d6 in this game.
You don't think that's a little bit committal, putting the bishop on rather an exposed square?
Well, I'm trying to protect e5 because I really want to get in the break e5 to try and free my position.
I see, but all these elementary openings books say you should develop your knights before your bishops.
Oh, well, I'm planning to do that a bit later.
Yeah, he's only transposing. I mean, he moves his knight next. I developed a piece.
And I went knight f6 here.
And I nortled. And I went c4, didn't I?
That's right.
And what happens if black takes that pawn?
Well, I play queen to c2 or a4 and garner it back and claim that his bishop's in a bad square on d6. It should be an e7 if he takes it.
Right.
Here I went c6. I'm trying to block off the white squared bishop along this diagonal, since it's quite a notorious piece.
And I went b3, and if black captured on c4 and I recaptured and he went c5, then I would have necessarily be able to go e3 to keep my centre pawns together.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that the move of the pawn to b3 is really strengthening your centre, protecting the centre, and if black ever trades off pawns, you're going to get a majority of pawns in the part of the board.
I'm not sure if it's strengthening. It's a potential liability, because I don't want to get weak pawns in the centre. However, I think he would spend too much time creating them for his own good.
Right. So you didn't trade, Matthew?
No, I played queen e7. I was planning, actually, to trade later.
And I went bishop b2 first.
Knight bd7.
There have been a number of games that we've seen where the white player plays very actively in the opening and pawns come off very quickly, but the opening you've chosen, John, is much slower. You put both the bishops on the edge. You're playing a rather sort of slow, subtle waiting game, encroaching on the edges rather than marching down the centre. Well, is this the kind of thing you enjoy doing?
I don't disapprove of double fianchettos. It's not illegal. And
the fianchetto, of course, is the placing of the bishop on b2 and g2, as you've done here. It's from the,
that's right, yes.
It's from the Italian fiancata, which is almost the same word as the English flank. So even a rather complex chess term like fianchetto actually has a parallel in English.
Well, I think it's not enormously surprising that the words for the pieces and for the moves should have historical interest.
So what happened now?
Well, I developed my knight. I'm now defending the c4 pawn.
So the problem is, if I take on c4, white plays knight takes c4, protecting e5 further.
And also, if black plays e5, then I can take on d5, I think, and get a good position. Maybe I take on e5 first.
So what you decided to do, Matthew, was to develop more pieces, is that right?
That's right, yes. I played b6.
Yes, the bishop on c8 is a bit of a problem piece because it's hemmed in by pawns, and you're trying to get it out on the edge as well. And
I developed my queen. And I now played e4 to get play in the centre.
Now e5 is threatened, forking the bishop and knight.
Yes, white's threatened to push on his pawn from e4 to e5, and that would attack your bishop on d6 and the knight on f6. So obviously you must do something about that.
Yes, I think I really must take in this position.
And I recaptured.
I took back.
You did.
And now I felt that the natural move, which is knight to f6, would concede this square.
The e5 square?
The e5 square.
Well, there's an important point that if you go knight f6, queen c2, shall I show a variation or not?
Just show a variation briefly.
Knight f6, queen here, pawn to here, then I take, and I go here.
Exactly.
And a nasty accident happens, because if he plays bishop takes bishop, I play bishop takes knight, and
that's obviously very dangerous. Let's go back to the game, because we can look at variations at that
okay, right.
Analysis
so
later.
You played bishop a3, didn't you?
Yes, in order to get rid of this dangerous bishop.
And I moved it first, because I wanted to exchange it on, not on this square, but on the other square. You know, hit me again.
Yes.
And I took.
Now, black's brought his queen into very active play here. How about a general assessment of the position? And John, what do you think? Are you satisfied with your chances?
I think that white is better because my bishop's better than black's bishop. If the bishops went on and the c-pawn went on prise, then black would have equalised. However, because his bishop is hemmed in and mine is pressing against it, though there are some pieces in the way, then I think I have the advantage. This may or may not become greater in the next few moves.
Yeah. Matthew, what do you feel about the position?
I felt just slightly uncomfortable in this position, but I thought I might be able to hold it. But it was always this piece that
You
gave
mean
me
the bishop on
problems, yes.
b7?
That's right.
I went here, didn't I?
That's right.
I wasn't sure which rook to put in d1. I think black should go knight f6 now, and then c5, though his queen is in rather a lot of danger. At least I was worried that he would be able to do that and equalise. If he can't, then he's going to be in serious trouble. You went rook e8, didn't you?
Yes, I was planning to later play c5, and I just wanted to place my rook on the same file as the queen. But this may not be correct.
I would have thought it ought to be on the d file.
Exactly.
I now went here and just made it all very concrete. I just have the better bishop and more space.
And the idea, of course, when you play this knight into e5, is that if black should trade it off, which in fact he did, then the rook that you've already placed on d1 is very well positioned to seize control of the open d file. Now, Matthew, you now exchanged off the knight on e5.
That's right, yes.
Did you consider just leaving it there? Perhaps defending your knight with a move like rook to d8, or perhaps moving the knight across to f6 and hitting the white queen?
The very big problem about that is that white is threatening knight takes c6,
Yes.
winning this pawn and also attacking the queen.
Right, so white's last move uncovered a very unpleasant attack, not only against your knight on d7, but a
against the pawn
triple
on
attack
c6.
against the black pawn on c6, which is hit not by just by the knight, but by the queen and by the bishop.
Yep.
So really, it's such a dominating piece that you must take it off.
I think so, but now I think things get quite unpleasant.
Yes. I just have and I took back with the pawn, which is presumably correct. I just have a clear positional advantage here. I don't know if it's winning or not. I mean, much later it wasn't so clear. But you played that rook to d8,
This
yes.
rook to d8, yes.
And I went here to...
And that's a very subtle move, because although your advantage lies in the potential control of the open d file, by moving the queen sideways, you're setting up a diagonal threat from h4 to d8 against that black rook.
I'm not sure if it's that subtle a move. I mean, it's possible I should just go rook d4, actually. Or is there a problem? No, if rook d4, he can...
Well, let's not go into variations at the moment.
Because in principle, what I want to do is to get control of the d file, then I would really be winning.
Yes, so what Matthew has to do now is to try and struggle against white, building up tremendous pressure in this open file.
And of course, the problem here is that I could never free my bishop with c5.
Yes, because the pawn on c6 is pinned by the white bishop.
Exactly.
So by your last move, retreating the queen, what you're doing is lending added protection to the rook on d8,
Exactly.
which is the piece you're using to challenge the d file.
It's absolutely the correct move. I went bishop here. I don't like that very much. I think I should just go here, because you need to move a pawn in front of your king anyway.
So you put the bishop on e4, and now that's got rather a brutal threat of queen takes h7 checkmate.
It has.
Yes. I played h6 here, not only to defend the mate threat, but I also had some ideas of later playing g5 to cut off the diagonal threat.
And now I wasn't quite sure how to improve my position, so I started mooching around.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting moment, John, and it's something I'd like to discuss. We have a position where the material's completely equal, where a number of pieces have been traded off already, where many people would think that the situation was in fact entirely level. But you know that you're slightly better, Matthew knows you're slightly better, and it's interesting to try to explain to the chess enthusiast why such positions are good. Now, I was watching the game as it was played, and I thought, well, maybe one thing white might do is perhaps to even start advancing his kingside pawns, perhaps playing the pawn from g3 to g4 to g5 and trying to bust through there. Another thing to do is just to gradually try and exploit the advantage on the d file. But could you say in very general terms for the viewer watching the programme, why you think you stand better in this position?
I stand better because I have an advantage in space. This pawn's further up than that, and my bishop is much better than his bishop.
Yes, I mean the pawn on e5 is
my pawn
pressing
on e5.
further than the pawn back pawn on e6.
If I lost control of the d file, it would be a problem, but I wouldn't be losing. If he loses control of the d file, he's completely lost.
Right.
Now, I decided what I would like to do is to somehow cause him to exchange and get control, but I can't do that. And therefore, I just decided to improve some of my pieces first.
Right, so you're gradually improving the position of pieces, really tacking around, trying to gain further small
You know, I mean, I'd
advantages.
like to play this move, really. That would be my favourite move.
Which, of course, isn't legal at the moment.
Which is exceedingly illegal,
right,
for about 3 reasons. But, you know, that would really be a nice move. So I went King G2, didn't I? Just to
That's
improve.
right, yes.
And you played some...
Now...
Played A5, did you?
I did play A5. I played this move.
I thought maybe you should play G5 and start hitting my E-pawn, but it's a difficult thing to do.
Yes, very difficult.
It was... I wasn't too sure about that move, because if I expose my king side, then attacks down here will become very potent.
Then I have a very dangerous attack, I agree.
I was also wondering whether I should simply remain passive and try and keep the position as it was.
Well, I think you should do something like rook b8, bishop a8, and then c5, and then you'd be all right, actually.
So what did you do now, John?
I moved my bishop away.
Right.
I mean, I wanted my queen to be able to come over in certain circumstances.
You wanted to free the e4 space of the queen?
I was thinking of playing c5 at some moment as well to smash his pawns up, but it didn't seem really the moment.
Right, and how did you react to this, Matthew?
I played a4 in this position.
No, I'd like to have gone b4, but I thought he could go g5 then. So I just went rook c1. What I didn't want was to lose control of the d file through some sort of stupidity, so I just got my men out of the way. Essentially, I'm letting him play moves because he has a bad position.
Right.
And so if your opponent has a bad position, one thing you can do is merely let the guy have some moves so he can make it worse. Because it's very, very hard not to, in fact. And you swapped, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Swap.
My plan with a5, a4 was to try and divert white from the d file, but obviously this is impossible. And the other major problem that black has is that he cannot use this very tempting a file due to the fact that the 8th rank will fall into white's control.
Right, so although you've gained control of the open a file with your rook, what you're saying is this is virtually useless because the rook at e8 is attacked by the white queen and the white rook, and you must leave the rook on a8 to maintain the defence.
That's right.
So although you've gained some space, you can't actually use the space, you can't invade into it.
I played in this position queen e8, which aims to play rook d7 and rook d8.
Right.
And I know I'm not sure if you should let me do this. I think you should go something like rook b8 and bishop a8. As I said, I know with b4, which is nice.
Gradually encroaching on the queen side.
Well, yeah, he's now in very serious danger.
Right.
You went rook d7, didn't you?
I did, yes. Actually, the reason why I hadn't actually played queen e8 before was that I feared rook to d6. But,
yeah, maybe I should be doing that, but I don't like giving up the d file. Perhaps what I did wasn't terribly good. I took, didn't I? Because now I get control of the d file, which is delightful. I'm into here.
Queen c7.
Yeah. And now I can't go to d4 because of c5. And my king actually will be better now in g1, but one didn't know this one improved it. So in queen e4.
Queen e4, and now this stops black from freeing his position by playing the pawn from c6 to c5.
Because the bishop
because the white queen and the white bishop piling down on this long white square diagonal.
Yeah.
And also there is a threat of
attack the bishop, right?
b5 in this position.
A very serious threat, yeah.
So, I mean, let's take stock of this position again. And I was discussing a few moves ago why you thought white had the better position.
Yeah.
And now I think it's become much clearer that white has got control of the game.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, we can see that there are moves like b4 to b5 from white, potential future threat. Terrible pressure down the white diagonal. Another idea, also to watch out for, is c4 to c5, which just locks black in a kind of dark square prison. And yet a third idea which black has to watch out for is white bringing the rook up, sinking it in the black position, and generally squeezing the black position to death. So I imagine at this point, Matthew, you were feeling fairly pessimistic about your chances.
Yes, there was only one chance for me, and that was actually the line I got in the game.
Right.
But this is what I was playing for.
So you did that to defend your bishop on b7.
And therefore threaten c5.
Yeah. Right.
No, I wanted to go queen d4 here, because I want a pawn and a rook ending, but it's not going to be enough.
Right.
I'll show the variation later, shall I?
Later on, yes.
Yes.
We can come back to that.
Because what I did, I decided just to play c5. I decided that pawn up in that particular rook ending wouldn't be enough. Obviously, I would like to avoid any exchanges here, because my position's so good. But I did this, anyway.
And this is setting up the kind of dark square prison that I was talking about before, all the white pawns, that trio of pawns in the middle, all pressing down on the dark squares, and the black bishop on b7 being shut in, and also this tremendous outpost square on d6, perhaps beckoning in the future to a white rook.
It's not an unfriendly square, no.
No.
It is slot.
I took on c5 and trying to reduce the amount of pawns on the queen side.
And
Now rook a5.
And now, I mean, I can play queen d4, but it seems a bit wimpy. What I did, I guess, correct, but I played a bad move in a moment.
And that is, in fact, sacrificing the pawn on c5.
No, it's winning the exchange. I mean, after he takes on c5, he has no chance of not giving me the exchange because he gets mated extremely quickly otherwise.
Yes, but in this position, Matthew, of course, your position's getting so constricted, you may as well take the pawn sacrifice and see what happens.
I thought so, yes.
Yeah.
Because now the 7th rank and the 8th rank...
Oh, he has absolutely no choice. No, he's completely correct. And I went here.
Attacking the rook.
Sorry.
And now threats of rook d7 and rook d8.
Yeah, so white is threatening queen takes rook and shunting the rook onto d7 or d8 with a devastating attack.
Yeah. So he must go rook d5.
Yeah, so this is very unpleasant. Now, before you take the rook off, black's been forced into this rather desperate defensive measure by white's pressure. And as a result of the excellent attack that white's built up, you've now got the chance to bishop takes rook and win the rather valuable rook for the... We call this the exchange. Winning the rook for the bishop is winning the exchange. And this should be enough to win the game.
It should be, yeah. This position was slightly harder than I expected. I mean, I took it, of course.
Bishop takes rook.
He could take with the other pawn as well, but it's going to be lost. And now I went queen b6, which is a mistake. I think I should go rook b6 first.
Yes, and let's just put the rook back for a minute. What we're saying is that you've got the rook for the bishop and therefore a technically winning position.
Yeah.
And the black bishop on b7 is very badly hemmed in. It's extremely difficult to free that bishop. And, as you said, perhaps playing a move like rook b6 keeps a complete lock on the bishop. And the queen on d4...
queen here next.
Yes, the queen on d4 completely paralyses the black position.
Because the move I played looks very good, but the ending is much harder than I expected.
Yeah, so what you're doing is forcing off queens.
I'm forcing off queens.
Which is in principle a good thing.
In principle, yes.
But at the cost of allowing black's bishop to get into the game.
It's not black's bishop, it's the fact that the d-pawn gets active, and I can't round it up.
So did you sort of think there might be a sort of faint chance of survival after John played this queen b6 move?
I did. I was quite optimistic after this move, because now I have d4 check.
Yes, and this is really the first time in the game that your bishop's played a part in the proceedings.
Yes.
It's the first check of the game.
First check of the game, and even though the position's difficult, you've actually managed to put the white king in check.
Now I run my king. And now he must swap queens, because otherwise very dire things happen. I mean, he gets 2 checks, and then I hit him. And I recaptured. And now bishop f3, which is an excellent move, and I hadn't understood the point of this move at the time. Now, presumably I should go rook b4 here, because I lost a tempo rather dopily.
You should play.
Yeah, I should play
this move, right?
And yeah, I mean, the way I played, I lost a tempo.
Right.
We thought if rook b3, then bishop b2 as well, didn't we?
Exactly.
But I went here thinking it's over, and you went here, which I had not foreseen.
So
which is pretty dopey of me.
So what in fact happened is that you sent out a detachment to round up the passed black d-pawn, but it's been cut off from the rear, and the black bishop has saved the passed d-pawn, the black passed d-pawn from being taken, and it's still alive.
Something I've just realised is that if I play king g4, then h5 check could win for black, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, which I hadn't realised.
Yeah, so suddenly black's back in the game with some real chances.
Black has some
because although you've only got a bishop for the rook, that pawn, the pawn in the centre, is still giving you some chances for counterplay.
It also opens up an awful lot of traps.
Right.
So I removed my rook from Spade square.
And I repeated the position again.
And I hit you this time, didn't I?
Exactly, yeah.
The right way, right?
Indeed, yeah.
And now d3.
And now I got my rook behind and thought, hurrah.
So there's a famous, there are very many famous chess teachers. One of them was Dr. Siegbert Tarrasch, famous German, active in the beginning of the century. And one of his rules was always put your rook behind your opponent's passed pawn.
Yes.
And that's what you're doing here, putting the rook behind the passed pawn.
Indeed, I am,
to physically block it from advancing.
Yes, it's a much, much better square. After he goes bishop e2, it's obviously much better here than here. This would be a disgusting square. This is quite a good square.
So with the rook behind the pawn, you've got much more freedom for manoeuvre, and the pawn can't actually advance yet.
So now I started to get my king into the game. I went g4, which I think is okay.
Yes, I went g5 here. I was trying to prevent advance of king's pawns.
And I went king g3.
King g7.
And f4. This is this position actually, I think later it was drawn in the game. I don't know if you think that as well.
We'll take a look at that later.
Yeah, we'll take that in a minute.
So now I faced quite a difficult decision. I wasn't sure whether to take on here and allow possibilities of a passed h-pawn later on,
What do you mean capturing G5 takes F4 check?
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
Or simply trying to keep the position as it was. I decided on the latter. I'm not sure whether that is in fact correct.
So this is really just trying to do nothing and build a kind of fortress.
Yeah.
No, I played F5 check. It's probably, if I go H4, I think you can, then I think you can actually take and play H5, and I don't really see why you're losing that.
Yes, this is what I was hoping for again.
So I think you should have taken the last move, actually. I went here, and after you took, I was going to go rook D6 check. There's a variation which we both saw, which is quite short.
All right, show it if you like.
Here, check, here. Now, I can't take that because an accident happens with this pawn. So I take here. And now he can't take that because I go E6 and my pawn becomes the US cavalry.
Fine.
And so we both thought that would be winning. I think we're probably both correct as well.
So let's re-establish the game position.
In fact, I did take this pawn, but with a slight difference.
And after check, you went back. And I took. And now you played a good move.
I played H5, which just sets a small trap.
Do you think White is actually winning this position, or?
Don't know. I thought so at the time, but I didn't see his next move. Well, the position we got in the game, I think, is drawn.
Yes, I've been trying to look over it too.
I went H4, which seems natural. And now, if he does anything giving my king a black square, then it's completely over. But he went here, which is an excellent move, which I had not foreseen, I fear.
So this is a brilliant resource at the edge of the abyss, Matthew.
Well, it didn't feel like that, but...
Did you get the impression that you might be able to hold the game at this point?
Yes, I really thought I'd done it here, but again, it was a lot more difficult than I thought.
Yes, because of course, John, you're an expert at the endgame stage of chess. You've written many books on the endgame.
That doesn't actually mean I'm an expert. It means that it means I've written
an alleged expert on the endgame.
Indeed. I mean, I'm not sure which I should do here. I haven't really thought about this. Perhaps I should take this guy and just keep...
Which pawn do you think you could
Perhaps
take?
I should do this to keep more pawns.
Yes.
I mean, I'm only looking at it now, and I was wondering if I could somehow get my king in somewhere. How are we doing? I'll give you a variation, something like here, 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 here. But I might go E6 or something, or
yes.
To just try to get my king. If my king can get to F6, then I'll always win. Because I think this is better than what I got. I thought what I did would be good enough, but in fact, what I hadn't understood, excuse me, is that I just took.
You played rook d6. It was a very natural move. I think most people would do that more or less without thinking.
You took, and I went in. Where? Here, probably.
So D6.
That's right.
And you took, which is correct.
Yeah.
And you now defended your pawn. You should just put your bishop in E6 and sit there.
Well, I'm not sure about this position because bishop E6.
Yeah.
You can take this one.
Yeah. And we'll run.
Now,
let's not go too far into this, but let's just assess the position.
I was thinking here that black had a general plan, white had a general plan of transferring his king to E7. Now...
yes, of course. I mean, again, I haven't looked at this in the board, but I thought about it a bit. My feeling is that probably black can get his king to E7 to stop white, or if the white king gets to F6, it's always over. But I would guess that it's extremely difficult to do. He was unlucky in that he had another pawn, and so he got distracted by it. He was very short of time here.
Let's go back to the game situation for a minute.
Yeah, because the game situation was this.
What in fact was the game position?
It was this.
This is the game position. And what you in fact played, Matthew, was...
Bishop G4.
Bishop G4. Was Bishop G4, right? And what we're saying is that this move, Bishop E6, might have been a better way of playing to hold the game. Just giving up the pawn in H5.
I was planning to give it up later, but I felt that I might be able to extract some advantage from it.
Yeah.
Well, Bishop G4 is a tremendously natural move. I think most people would probably play that without thinking, because it holds on to the extra material.
Yes, but I brought my king in, and now he's... Instead of, what did you go, Bishop E2?
E2.
Yeah.
I think I should go Bishop E6 again.
Probably doesn't matter yet.
Although actually, in this, if I go Bishop E6,
no,
in this position, it's not that easy.
So what did you play?
I went Bishop E2.
And I went rook to the 7th, and you now played an abysmal and horrible move.
Yes, this was my my blunder. I should
go Bishop C4.
I should go Bishop C4 and play Bishop to E6
You should play the bishop here.
That's right.
Right. With the idea of transferring it to there.
Yeah.
Getting very much the same position you had
We
before.
get the same position, then we faff around for a long time.
Right. So in fact there was a kind of short circuit here, was there?
There was, yes. I'd overlooked the mate,
Yes, in fact,
King f8.
the problem is, of course, that in this position, white has got this terrible threat.
That's right, yeah.
And you played the king back here to prevent that threat. But now, of course, white gains control of the dark square with his king, pushes the king up.
Yeah.
And you're being terribly driven into a corner.
Well, this is gone now, totally.
Now white is actually winning.
Yes, and I played bishop c4 to protect the f7 pawn, which
No,
allows
that.
rook d8.
Which allows a dramatic conclusion, rook d8,
Hardly.
checkmate, and the game's over.
Yeah.
So that really was a very sudden and unexpected conclusion.
Yes, yeah.
John Speelman won at the last hurdle. Well, John, and you're one of Britain's very top players. You're the first player ever to get through to the World semi-final.
On good days, yes.
And Matthew is compared with you, almost a beginner, but very much less experienced. And were you
He's a lot less
surprised at the amount of
experienced, he's not a
resistance he put up?
He's very tough in some bits, not others. But I mean, we all are. I mean, when you have good days, then you're tough in all phases of the game. When you have bad ones, then things go wrong. Yeah, he was very tough in the ending. I think the middle game is a very unpleasant one to play, especially at that speed, because you only have... Well, you don't have long enough to sort out that you ought to do nothing. Doing nothing takes more energy than doing something.
Right.
And, you know, one just sits there and lets things happen.
And Matthew, and were you just got the International Master title, you're only 14 years old. Were you overawed at all at the prospect of playing the mighty John Speelman? Did it bother you beforehand, or did you just play your normal game?
I was quite pleased actually getting a chance to actually play John Speelman.
Because, I mean, let's admit it, on the quiet, John was a bit of a hero of yours, isn't he?
Yes, he's my favourite player.
Certainly shouldn't be. not when he's playing like this. So.
Well, that was a really marvellous fight, a tremendous battle. Join us after the break to find out in detail exactly where this game was won and lost.
It's a world champion. It has fuel injection. It's turbocharged. It has a 2.9-litre engine. It's a race winner. It's the British Rally champion. It has four-wheel drive. It's a diesel. It's a hatchback, a saloon, and an estate car. It's the leader of its class. There is only one Ford Sierra.
In the city sits an eagle, astride a star.
I'm going to have another coffee.
Plumbers.
Plumbers?
I'm serious. 20% of our home insurance claims come from burst pipes.
So what do we do? Give our clients the name of a plumber?
And most of the damage is caused because it takes so long to find someone to fix the pipes.
Okay, find a way to do it.
Special helpline, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Help straight away, so less damage.
Good. Especially the less damage.
The Home Star policy helplines are just one of the ideas from Eagle Star that are changing the way people think about insurance. Eagle Star, always a good idea.
If a picture paints 1,000 words, then why can't I paint you? The words will never show the you I've come to know. And where
Sheba. Looks, smells and tastes like you'd cooked it yourself.
QuickFit's massive tyre and exhaust sale is now on with thousands of unrepeatable prices like Dunlop steel radials from an incredible $16.90. But you better hurry. Get down to our sale.
Welcome back to the James Capel Speed Chess Challenge. We're now going to look in detail at the game between John Speelman and Matthew Sadler and find out exactly where the game was won and lost. John, this is one of the critical positions.
Well, this is just up the opening. White has a slight space advantage. Matthew played bishop a3 here, and quite soon I had quite a clear advantage. We've been looking at some other ways that black could play. What's your...
Right, first of all, the natural knight f6 does not work.
I think actually I would go here rather than there. I can go here as well, but I quite like this square.
And now, if black goes c5, which is the natural move...
Yeah, this challenges the white
exactly.
centre.
So then a very nasty accident occurs.
Bishop takes c5 and then knight g5.
Here.
Now let's look at this position quietly for a minute and try to establish what's going on, because although it may be obvious to strong international players like yourself that black is in trouble, it might not be quite so obvious to the viewers.
Right. First of all...
what are white's threats in this position?
Well, white is threatening mainly to go bishop takes knight, something takes bishop, queen takes pawn, mate.
Right, so the lineup of the white queen and the white bishop against h7 and the black king side in general means that black has to meet the threat of bishop takes f6, and he has to make a defensive move in this position.
He does indeed, and there is no defensive move is his main problem.
Well, let's say for example that black played g6 to stop the mate. What would happen then?
Then the problem is that the bishop takes b7.
Right.
Queen takes b7.
Right.
And now the knight in f6.
So white plays bishop takes f6, right?
That's right.
And he wins a piece.
Yes.
Right.
That's very true, yeah.
Okay.
And there's no other defence. Well, he can move his rook from f8 is the best he can do, but he ends up with a thoroughly unpleasant
So that's
position.
a convincing demolition of an attempt to get immediate equality for black.
Yes. I mean, it's certainly germane to the position. If I didn't have this trick, in as much as it's a trick, then black could equalise.
Right. So let's go back to the critical position.
Right. Now, perhaps to avoid all this...
This is the game position we have before us now, right?
Perhaps to avoid all this, with the knight coming into g5.
Yeah.
I feel now that perhaps I could have played h6.
This is certainly possible,
So
yeah.
this is a purely defensive move to keep the white knight out of g5.
And now the idea is to go knight f6 and then c5. Well, I mean, I can do various things here. I can put a rook on the d file, this guy, for instance, rook a to d1, just to have a rook on the open file when the position opens. I can put a rook on the e file, so that when he goes d5, I'll have play against his queen. For instance, if he goes knight to f6, queen to c2, c5. This is bad play by black, of course. Then d5 is most unpleasant.
And now let's just take stock of this position again. We'll see that white's pushed forwards in the centre. Once again, he's opening up a line for his bishop and his queen against the black king side. And the black pawn on e6 has become a target because it's pinned by the white rook on e1 to the black queen on e7. So this is the kind of position where black is already doing very badly.
Yes, well, obviously black wouldn't dream of doing this, but the point of rook e1 is to stop him immediately getting in c5, and it does that.
So, Matthew, after you've suggested h6 as a defensive move for black, and John said that he would perhaps play rook f to e1, have you got an idea how black might proceed?
I would now overprotect the e-pawn with this move.
And probably I would go rook here now. Just to...
Rook into d1, right?
Yes.
And now I've got various plans. I can't actually play c5 immediately, but I've got to be a bit patient here. I can play rook a b8, for instance.
Which is to defend the bishop?
Yes, intending c5.
Right.
And after this, I certainly move my queen somewhere, b1 or c2, just getting my queen out of the way. And I'm a little better. I mean, it's very satisfactory. I think queen b1 is a nice, natural, sensible move.
Yes, and one of the ideas that you've got in this position, of course, is later to invade in the centre with a move like knight e5, generally gaining
Absolutely.
terrain.
The thing is that compared to the game, we'd both have black squared bishops on, which is to his advantage. It means if this exchange happened, I'm not saying it will do, in a position like this, this is much better than what he had in the game, because the two bishops in b2 and c5 ensure
this
that...
kind of position would be almost equal, I imagine.
Yep.
d6 is now protected.
D6 is now... I would want to get these bishops off, and I'd have to waste time doing that if indeed I could achieve that.
Well, we've looked at a position where black might have perhaps improved his play slightly in the early part of the game.
Yep.
Was there another position later on in the game that was of tremendously crucial importance?
Well, the very end is very interesting, and Matthew's looked at it more than I, so I'm interested to see what he...
Shall we take a look at that?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea.
We'll just set the position up.
Yep, that's my king here, I suppose.
Crucial position from the endgame.
We're talking about the generic position, which starts with the bishop in e6.
Let's start with the position in the game that could have been achieved at some point.
All right.
What's this?
So something like this. Say that black plays bishop e6.
Yes.
And I schlop.
Right, so we now have the ending of white has king, rook and pawn.
Indeed.
Black's kings, bishop and pawn. And of course the rook is worth much more than the bishop.
But there are very few pawns. If it were my move, then I could play this, which would be delightful, because I would win the pawn ending. However...
Because the... why don't you show a variation of that line? Don't do it too quickly. Because we want people to follow this rather tricky piece of analysis.
Now, white is gaining the opposition in this position. And if black moves away from the pawn, white goes in.
That's very clear.
And if the king moves towards the pawn, white can turn the other's flank.
Right, keep going, show us more.
King to e7, king to g6.
Yes.
King to e8. Black tries to stay as close to the pawn as possible.
Right.
King to f6, king to d7, king to f7. Now black, prevented by this pawn.
He must move his king and he loses the pawn.
And he loses the pawn, and thereafter white is in fact winning.
Well, that's very beautiful and neat. That's marvellous. Very tricky little piece of endgame technology there. So let's go back to the position, and it, of course, isn't white's move, so white can't actually carry out this threat. The rook's on d6.
Yeah, this is a pattern that most club players are aware of. Anyway.
So black would go bishop to a2, and now there are several winning attempts for white. I'm not actually sure whether they all actually work, but
what do you want me to do? Well, show me and I'll scream that I think something's going wrong.
White can plan to play a rook on g3.
Well, show us how the rook gets there, Matthew.
Yeah.
Let's
see some variations.
Okay, check. Now, where does the king go?
The king would, I think, have to go to h7.
Well, you see, it can go to f8 to e7 as well, and I'm not convinced that that loses either.
Yes,
it's possible you have some plan with the king, white king getting to g7. Do you, or...?
This is what I was afraid of. White can plan to play his king to g5, manoeuvring the rook.
Let's see some moves in this, because black king's in check, and let's have some concrete variations.
King here.
Right, and white would play what now?
Well, the problem now, if white plays king g5, then black can once more
come back and block the progress.
Yes, but in this particular position, after king here, I have king f5 check, which causes an accident.
Right.
Very serious one. He'd have to go king e7 here, with the king and f8.
Right.
And now the king is going to get to e6. It's,
white can now play rook c3.
Yeah, white hits the guy, and this goes back.
And now white, yes, white plays king to f5.
Okay, so I'm going to defend by giving check for the moment and seeing what you're up to.
Okay, now king to e4.
Am I having problems that there aren't enough squares in the diagonal from e6 to a2? Is that my problem?
Yes.
Yes.
So in fact what's happening is that although black is material down, black is establishing a kind of fortress, and he's stopping the white pieces from encroaching on the pawn. And if you can keep out the wet like that, it's almost impossible for white to win.
I mean, unfortunately, f6 draws immediately at the moment.
Yes, because in a position like this where black can trade off the last pair of pawns, the advantage of rook against straight bishop is not a winning advantage.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit more play it goes. I mean, I really don't know. It would take several hours of analysis.
Well, I'm afraid we haven't got time to go into all the intricacies of this fascinating endgame, but it's clear that what might have been is that if black had been able to handle it absolutely to perfection at the critical stage and set up this kind of fortress position, it might have been possible to hold the draw. And it's just an indication of just how difficult chess can be, that you have situations where things appear very simple, quite normal, but there are little tricks that enable people to save themselves right on the brink of defeat.
Well, the thing is that in the ending, at some stage you can actually analyse totally, and at that point it suddenly becomes more complicated because you can actually look at all positions and find out what you ought to do. Normally in chess you're merely groping in the dark, but occasionally...
And this kind of position is susceptible to analysis.
Yes, precisely.
Well, thank you both very much indeed. This is perhaps one of the most difficult positions we'll ever see on television speed chess, one of the most remarkable technical positions. John Speelman has overcome stout resistance from Matthew Sadler. And next week, we have the third quarter-final between Nigel Short and Kathy Forbes in the James Capel Speed Chess Challenge. Join us then, Thursday night, same time, on Thames, for what should be a fascinating clash.